If you check down in the description box, you'll find some links for a free guide that goes along with this video. But let's just run through what you need to know to grow, just basically the foundations of hydroponics, no fluff, the tools you're gonna actually need, the nutrients you're actually gonna need, and the information that you need to know to get started today. Okay, now your first question probably is, can you use your tap water? And the answer to that really depends on where you live. With your tap water, what you want to do is find out if your county uses chlorine or chloramine to disinfect your water. If they use chlorine, all you have to do is let your water sit out and the chlorine will just gas off. It'll actually leave the water and then your water will be just fine to use for your hydroponic garden. If they use chloramine, that's connected to ammonia, chlorine and ammonia, and that does not gas off. It stays in your water and you won't have huge problems right off the bat, but you can see larger issues with ammonia buildup as the chlorine and ammonia actually separate later down the road. But that's only if you plan on growing much larger plants, and this is just a crash course, so let's keep moving. The next thing you need to check with your tap water is the pH of your water right out of your faucet. So hydroponics, most plants, like 99%, want around 6.0. Anywhere between 5.6 and 6.3 is a pretty safe range to keep things. If the pH goes too far down or too far up for too long, then you're gonna have nutrient lockout. And that means that your plant can't take any of the nutrients in the reservoir, even if they're all just chilling right there ready to be taken in. That's why pH is so important. So if the pH coming out of your faucet is 8.0, which that's what mine is, then I need to use pH down to bring the pH down to 6.0 before I put it into my hydroponic garden. The reason you will hear so much about pH moving forward is because it's something that people just let slip, but it's vitally important because your plants just can't take their nutrients if it's not set right. And then to measure your pH, you're gonna wanna get a digital pH meter. Because analog strips, if you really plan on doing this, then you're gonna use so many strips, there's so much of the little tester fluid that you're gonna be running out all the time. These are really the best way to go and they're the most accurate. So this actually measures my pH and it measures my nutrients. All I have to do is turn it on, put the tip in the water, and it gives me the readout right on the screen for both the pH and the nutrients, which are measured in two different ways as far as the nutrients go now. You actually measure how many nutrients in your water through something called EC, or electrical conductivity, and that comes up on your screen as U-moles. Looks like this. And then the other way to measure how many nutrients in your water are with TDS, or total dissolved solids. And that's measured through ppm, or parts per million. And that looks like this on your meter. And to keep track of how many nutrients are supposed to be in your garden, you can use feed charts, which you can get off of General Hydroponics website or over at Humble Grove School Community. I have some feed charts listed in the classroom there. And that brings me to our nutrients. When it comes to nutrients, there are so many different ones you can buy. Let me just run through what I think is the best way to grow, and that's with a 3-part nutrient solution. And the one that I've always used is General Hydroponics. Now, what you're going to find people who don't really understand the chemistry of how plants work at all, a lot of people who've never really dove into hydroponics or the biology of plants, they're going to just call these chemicals and say, you don't want to feed your plants just a bunch of chemicals. You're going to eat that stuff. Well, the truth of it is that these are just dissolved nutrient ions, and that's all plants eat. In soil or in hydroponics, all plants eat are dissolved nutrient ions. They just take longer to get them in soil. So if someone tries to convince you that these are just chemicals that you're going to ingest, you can correct them and let them know that those are just dissolved nutrient ions in a water-based solution. And this particular nutrient series is the General Hydroponics Flora series. It's a 3-part solution, and this is the first part, and then there's also the micros, and then there is the bloom formula. And the way they work is you use each one according to your growth stage. So this is the grow formula. This would be for vegetative growth, or really just if your plant stays in vegetative growth, like if you're only going to eat the leaf from it, then you can just use this. You never really will need that pink bottle, because the pink bottle is for fruiting production. So tomatoes, cucumbers, when your plant starts needing a lot more potassium and phosphorus, that's when it's going to need that pink bottle. But don't worry, you really don't need to know all of this. You can just follow the feed chart. And the feed charts show you exactly how much of each one of these to add to your garden, and then what your EC and your TDS is supposed to be. Now, the thing is with these charts, these are for fruiting plants. So we can see it actually switches a lot more to the flora bloom as the plant gets a lot larger. That's because it's growing its fruit, and that's what it needs. So if you're just growing lettuce, leafy greens, spinach, kale, things that aren't going to grow fruit, then you can pretty much ignore the entire second half of these feed charts and just keep it in the first half. So really, keeping track of your nutrients, if you just follow these feed charts, is a lot easier than people might think. All you need is a tool to measure your EC, your TDS, and match it up with where it's supposed to be according to the growth chart here, and then add the proper nutrients according to where your plant is, and you're good to go. The only other thing you really need to consider in your nutrient reservoir is the pH, and you measure that with the exact same meter, and then you just need to use pH up or down to adjust that. Now, the final thing you need to really keep an eye on with your nutrient reservoir is the temperature. If the temperature does get too high, like above 80 degrees, then you're going to experience root rot. And root rot is quite a bummer for hydroponic gardens. Since this is a crash course, I'm not going to tell you what you need to know about the plant up top. That's just general gardening information. That's not anything that's about hydroponics. Hydroponics is really just what we just talked about. Once your plant's growing, and the things you do up top with the pruning and keeping your lighting, all that stuff is actually separate from hydroponics completely, and is really no different than if you were in a soil garden, or if you were trying to bring plants inside in soil and grow them. You would use the same lighting, you would use all the same techniques for pruning and taking care of your plant. Now, as you go further, you're definitely going to have a lot of questions. You're probably going to want to take a deeper dive into hydroponics. So I recommend checking out Humble Growth's school group. It's where we have a community. It's where I do my lives and answer any questions you might have. We have a bunch of courses. Everything is posted up on the school group for you to access, to learn, and to grow with. And don't forget the hydroponic guide that I made. That'll be a good resource for you moving forward. It goes along with this video. It's totally free. It's down in the description box. My name's Chad. Let's grow food. Let's grow freedom. Let's grow smarter. See you in the next one.